Remember that we had one variable here and the variable here. If you want to remove them, just click on the X symbol that you have over here and over here. That will erase all the variables. It will clean up the screen. Now, let's go back just for a second to Professor Hans Rosling's video over here, just to take a look at the chart over here. You will remember that on the chart over here, we had fertility rate on the x-axis, we had life expectancy on the y-axis, and then each one of the dots is sized according to the size of the population. And then they are color-coded. They are color-coded by region. So how to do that in Insight? It's actually quite simple. Let's do that. So what I'm going to do is, on these axes, I am going to load fertility rate, so children per woman. So I'm going to open this menu and click on children per woman. And that will be the first variable. And then on the second one, where it says select drag and drop variable 2, I am going to select life expectancy. And automatically Insight will detect that we are trying to see the relationship between a life expectancy, children per woman. Right now, children per woman is on the y-axis, and you can see the life expectancy is on the x-axis. If you want to switch the order or the position of those, just change these. So put a life expectancy here and put children per woman over here, and it will simply switch the order. So I'm going to just do that, life expectancy here, and then children per woman over here, and that will create something that is a little bit more similar to Hans Rosling. But again, remember that we are not subsetting by country. We are seeing all countries in all years, okay? And that is the reason why Insight is showing us the data, not as a series of little dots like Hans Rosling over here, but as a heat map, okay? The intensity of the color corresponds to the number of countries on this part of the spectrum, on this part of the scale. If you wanted to represent each country using a single dot, you will need to go to the Add to Plot menu by clicking on the bottom button over here, Add to Plot, here at the bottom. And then you can open these, the upper left corner menu, the I want to change plot appearance. And instead of plot type default, we are going to, instead of a grid density plot, which is exactly what we're seeing right now, it has created that by default. We are going to create our traditional scatter plot. And then when we click on that, each country will be represented using a circle. The problem is, again, that we are seeing all countries all years. So I'm going to close these. And then over here, I am going to subset the data again. All right, down here, I am going to subset the data by year. So I'm going to select year. And what will happen again is that Insight is going to create a scatter plot for every year, right? From 1952, I remember, up to 2008. And then if you move the slider, you will see this is the scatter plot from 1952 in comparison to the scatter plot for 2008. This is actually what Professor Hans Rosling does in his video. In the past, in 1952, you go over here, you will see that a majority of countries had a high fertility rate, so a high number of children per woman. Most countries are here on the right side of the spectrum, and they are relatively low in terms of life expectancy. So in most countries, you have low life expectancy, high fertility rate. Okay, these are a lot of countries. But if you move the slider to the right, you will see that most countries have moved to the upper left corner. Now, most countries are over here, meaning high fertility rate, high life expectancy, low fertility rate. Okay, and again, you can move the slider back and see the animation, right? Now, let's add all the features that Professor Hans Rosling creates used for his graphics, because as you remember before, the dots are sized according to population, and also the region. The dots are color coded by region. So how to do that? Again, we will need to go to the Add to Plot menu. So I'm going to click on that, and then we are going to use the I want to menu. We are going to code more variables. I want to code more variables, because there's another thing that we can code. Okay, we can code by level, so we can code by size. So we can go here and say, well, I want to resize the points proportional to, for example, population. And if you click on that, each one of the dots will change size. Probably this is China, and this is probably India. So the bigger dots are easy to identify. Now, if the dots look a little bit small to you, we can change the size of all these dots we are going to go to the I want to menu. Instead of code more variables, we are going to go to change plot appearance. And then we are going to go here where it says size. Instead of 0.8, increase that to 1 point something. And as you can see, the size of all those dots changes. So I'm going to make all of them quite large. So 2.8 or 3 point something. All right, so there you go. And well, looks more similar to Professor Hans Rosling's chart, right? And there you go. So compare that to that. Now the problem is that right now we also want to color code these countries. So how to do that? You're going to go to the I want to menu. You go to code more variables, and then where it says color by levels of, open that drop down menu and select region. And by doing that, automatically Insight will take all the values of the variable region, and it will color code the countries according to that, according to region. America, East Asia, Europe, etc. Now this still looks a little bit different than Professor Rosling's chart, because in this case the color, what Insight has done is to color the outline of each one of the dots. But what we want to happen is that we want to color the inside. We want to change the fill color, right? Like in the original chart. So in order to do that, again, we are going to go to the drop-down menu. I want to change plot appearance. And we are going to tell the software that we want to color the interior. And you click on that. Now, there you go. This is even more similar to the chart that we wanted. Now, the challenge that we have right now is overlap. Okay, overlap is usually a problem, because when you have tons of dots that are so close to each other, overlap may obscure the data a little bit and make things harder to read. Fortunately, there's another feature that we can change here in Insight, the transparency. Transparency is set to 0, meaning that all bubbles are set to being fully visible. But if you increase the transparency value, for example, to, let's say 20, for example, these things will become 26. These things will become 74% visible, right? If you increase this to 50, things will be 50% visible, right? So I recommend that you play with the transparency effect in cases where you have so much overlap over here. And I'm going to close, and there you go. We have a chart that looks, a series of charts actually, that look more similar to Professor Hans Rosling's charts on his